Got a 2007 Toyota Yaris. Low beam headlights are stuck on at all times. I can turn the switch on and off. Does not do anything. I can turn high beams on and off. Flash to pass works. Turn it on and off. Doesn't really do anything. First thing I always do when diagnosing an electrical fault is I consult the wiring diagram so that I can fully understand how the circuit is supposed to work. I've got the left and right headlamp bulbs right there on the diagram. As we can see there, I've got a hot at all times. So I have power from these two fuses at all times to the headlights. So therefore, if I want to turn the headlights on and off, I must be switching the ground on and off, okay? So follow the ground path. I've got a high beam circuit for each light, and I've got a low beam circuit for each light. Right here, the diagram splits off for having an optional relay or not. I've already looked at the vehicle and I do have the relay, so I'm going to follow the path for the relay. So if I were to decide where to start to diagnose this, right here at the relay is where I can test all the circuits all in one spot, so I'm probably going to go there. Here's the cover, here's that relay under the hood. Remove it. If the lights turn off, we know something's going on there. I don't know if you can hear that. When I insert and remove the relay turns on and off. Back here on the diagram, if we look at the relay circuit right here, this is the coil winding that activates the relay, and we know that it clicks on and off every time we insert it. So therefore, this winding must be getting power and must be getting ground for that to happen. So if I follow that diagram again, that relay has constant battery power from that fuse. So therefore, if we want to turn the headlights on and off, we must be switching ground to this side of the relay, okay? So if we really follow this diagram down, it ends up at the headlamp dimmer switch. So right away, I know that for that relay to be doing that, I have to have probably either a short to ground on this side, somewhere on this wiring, anywhere on this wiring, or somewhere on this switch itself. And again, the easiest way to test for that is going to be right here at the relay, right at those terminals. Back out here under the hood at the relay, we take a look. The two big fat terminals are going to be for the headlamp bulbs because those are the loads. These two terminals are going to be for turning the relay on and off. So it should be really easy to identify which terminals we need to actually test. Again, back on the diagram, we're only testing these two terminals because that's what turned the relays on and off, and we've determined that the problem is that the relay is apparently stuck on. Okay, so I should have a power at all times, which should be easy to identify with my test light. That one has power at all times, so therefore this terminal is the ground terminal that most likely has a problem. So I'm going to switch my test light around to test for ground, and then we're going to see what it says. Okay, I switched the test light around to test for ground. If this lights up, we know we've got some sort of short. And you can see it does light up dim. So we've got a slight short to ground. See, that's bright. That's full brightness. That's ground. That's a dim kind of short to ground. So we just need to follow the diagram. It can only be on this terminal. It can only be on these circuits. And it may end up being down here. But it could also be any of this wiring in between. So now the question is, how do we find it? How do we find a short to ground on this wiring or determine if it's the switch or not? I've got a test light connected to battery positive. I've got it tapped in here, testing for a short to ground. If the light is lit, we have a short to ground. So all I have to do is go start wiggling wiring or maybe disconnect this switch. If I disconnect that switch and the light goes out, we know 100% it's the switch. We know it's a bad switch. Or if I start wiggling wiring in here and the light starts flickering, I found it, etc. Which is a process of elimination. But the easiest thing to do, I'm going to go straight to the switch, disconnect it or start playing with it. what I'm doing here is turning the headlight switch on and off. So this is in the off position where we have a short to ground. This is fully grounded like it's supposed to be when it's actually requested to be on. That's abnormal, that's normal. I've been further playing with the switch, and now that very slight short to ground has gone away. And I've done nothing but just turn the switch on and off many times. Okay, so now I bet if I put that relay back in. Okay, so now I bet if I install this relay, headlights are going to be normal. Okay, so I just confirmed I have a faulty headlamp dimmer switch, and I didn't have to take anything apart, and most of the work was done by consulting a wiring diagram. Okay, I've got the new headlamp dimmer switch assembly here, factory part. It kind of clamps onto the steering column. Got to take the steering wheel off. Got to take some of the trim panels off to replace that. Okay, airbag has to come off, steering wheel has to come off. First step, obviously, we need to disconnect the battery for safety. You do not want to set off an airbag, take your head off, whatever. So there's a T30 torque screw on each side. Take this off and then disconnect the electrical connectors carefully. Airbag connectors, gently get underneath that, lift those up. Gently pop these off. Now you got to remove that steering wheel nut, and you're going to have to use a puller to remove the steering wheel. So after you remove the steering wheel, this is the clock spring or the airbag coil or whatever you want to call it. Cannot let this move. Can't let it go that way, can't let it go that way. It needs to stay right here, centered up right where it was. So you need to carefully take these trim panels off, remove this, and secure it in some way with a zip tie or something, or a pin or whatever. Tape, I don't care what you use. Just don't let that turn at all. Okay, so on the trim cover you got 1, 2, and 3 screws, and then the two halves will pop apart. Carefully pull that away, remove it. Again, do not let the clock spring spin. We need to remove this and secure it from turning. Upper trim panel comes off in the same way, pops off, and then carefully lifts out. Okay, let's study how does this come apart. I've got a little tab there. Push on that. Don't know if I can do it one-handed, but push on that tab and the switch should slide right out. The clock spring, I've got one tab there. Carefully pop. I've got a tab right here. Carefully pop. And so on and so forth. Just check it out. Most likely there's another one over here. Pretty difficult to do one-handed. Again, do not let this turn. Hold that so it does not turn. Kind of pull it out of the way. And what I would probably do is stick a zip tie through that hole and suck it up tight so that these two pieces cannot move independently of each other. And then this piece is what I'm trying to replace. So I've got a main connector here. I've got a connector here. I've got this switch that I need to take out, and then that spring clamp. Wait, I need to squeeze with some pliers, and then this will come off, and I can slide the new one on and just reverse the order of removal. So I went ahead and added some locking pliers to hold that spring clamp in the released position, because I find it takes quite a bit of force to pull that off, and I'm gonna have to do it two-handed. I was not able to both squeeze that and pull and wiggle at the same time. Okay, so I got it off. It was a two-handed yank, twist, and wiggle and pull. Again, that's what I did to hold that clamp. Here's our new replacement part. Comes with that little clip there to hold the clamp in the release position. I'm gonna do this two-handed so I don't screw it up, because there is an alignment feature I need to take note of. So I'm gonna use two hands to pop that on. It's gonna go pop, and then I'm gonna yank that clip to release the spring clamp, and then reverse disassembly. I don't think I need to show any of that. And then, yeah. Okay, I've seated it. It's all the way down. I'm trying to twist it. It won't twist. I know it's installed correctly. I'm gonna take this clip. Got it. Now just reverse what we did before. Here's that other switch. I'm just gonna insert and snap in. Going back on with the clock spring. Again, we were careful not to allow it to move at all. Just snaps on carefully. Put the upper trim panel back on, the lower trim panel back on, and then the steering wheel and airbag back on. Okay, all fully assembled. Lights turn on and off like they're supposed to. That's all I got.